Did you know that a teenager disappeared in the United States in 1994, and the police had to spend more than 3 decades investigating to solve her case? In this video, I'll tell you how advances in forensic technology and a new approach helped the investigation and made it possible to figure out where the young girl was. If you want to know everything that happened, stay with me until the end. Hello everyone, how are you? My name is Lesma. I hope you are doing very well. As always, I'm very happy to be here with you for another day and very grateful that you are watching me wherever you are. Today we have a case that happened in the United States, that of Christina Marie Plant. Join me to see all the details. Christina Marie Plant was born on January 23, 1981 in Arkansas, United States, but spent much of her childhood in Oklahoma. That stage of her life was marked by the separation of her parents, who were locked in a bitter custody dispute. Finally, custody was awarded to the father, but by 1994, 13-year-old Christine and her brother were living with a paternal uncle and his wife in Arizona. The town where they lived was known for its beauty and close-knit residents. In the end, everyone knew Christine, who was a quiet young girl who lived a very rural life. But this wasn't a problem for her, as she loved outdoor activities and was also passionate about animals. Like any girl her age, she went to school and had classmates who said she was quiet and friendly, and they knew she had a special affection for her horse. The animal was kept in a stable near her house and was part of Christina's daily routine. In the morning, she would go to school, then return home and eat. And in a hurry, she would go out to spend time with him to brush and feed him. Christina's life then seemed to go on without a hitch in the peaceful community. Besides that, neighbors always ran into her when she went from the house to the stable. It was practically a route she took every day and had almost memorized. But everything changed abruptly on Wednesday, May 15, 1994. As was customary, Christina said goodbye to her family to go to the stable, promising to return soon. It was just after 12:30 in the afternoon when she left her house and never returned. Several hours later, the family began to worry, and when they went to the stable, they discovered that Christine hadn't even arrived there. And then the initial concern turned into anguish, and that same night they went to the police to file a report. Immediately, a search mechanism was activated very close to the places where she was last seen. Police officers, family members, friends, neighbors, and dozens of volunteers joined the search. Everyone wanted to find her safe and sound. From the beginning, investigators classified the disappearance as suspicious, as they found no signs that she wanted to run away. Nor had she left the house with important things, and she had no money. In addition, they also looked for a note, but absolutely nothing was found. With each passing hour, the anguish grew, and the authorities reproduced a search flyer with all of Christina's characteristics. The posters were put up in businesses and storefronts, as well as published in the local press. All this in the hope that some witness could provide a clue that would lead to her whereabouts. But it was all in vain, and the authorities felt they were at a dead end. Police, volunteers, and various people expanded the search beyond the area where the young girl had disappeared, which had been, as we already know, between the stable and her house. Thus, they searched every desert area, bush, and mountain near the place. They even brought in tracking dogs and helicopters, but no clues came from this. The authorities then began interviewing family members and neighbors to try to reconstruct Christina's last moments. The case was entered into the National Database for Missing Children, and the young girl's aunt and uncle offered a $10,000 reward to anyone who provided information to locate her. But all these efforts were in vain, as no progress was made in the investigation. Over time, authorities and family members began to fear the worst. So the months turned into years, with no clues or updates, and finally the file was archived as an unsolved case. And in the 90s, technology for investigating was limited. There were no phones, geolocation systems, or signals to track. Nor was there extensive surveillance camera coverage like there is today. And besides that, forensic analysis wasn't as accurate as it is now. And although the case was archived, it remained active, so every so often, a group of investigators would review it to see if there was anything that had been missed. Later, documents came to light showing that there was a woman in Portland, Oregon, living under the young girl's name and date of birth. Sometime later, local police confirmed that they never had direct contact with her during that period. As things stood, Christina's disappearance remained a complete mystery. So, time passed, and 3 decades later it seemed that Christina's disappearance was going to be forgotten. However, the investigation gained new relevance when a team decided they were going to analyze the file using a different perspective and 21st century technology. That's how on April 1, 2026, 32 years after she was last seen, a statement was issued. 45-year-old Christina Marie Plante had been located alive. Purchasing Seward analyzed the file dench using a different perspective and 21st century technology. That's how on April 1, 2026, 32 years a statement was issued. 45-year-old Christina Marie Plante had been located alive. According to the publication, thanks to the advancement of technology and the dedication of everyone involved in the investigation, the truth came to light. In the end, investigators had contacted the woman and learned the truth. With this, the case was officially resolved, her missing person status was removed, and one of what was the longest-running cases in Arizona's history was concluded. Meanwhile, the news began to spread across the country and people started talking about a final chapter to a story that had remained open for generations. The discovery caught the attention of the media, who began to dust off the young girl's story. Its surprising outcome also resonated on social media, where the news went viral. However, despite the relevance of the case, authorities decided not to reveal details of the exact circumstances in which Christina was found, nor the place where she was located. No public details were shared about what she had done during those 32 years she had been missing either. Instead de ilamake kan ello malegra, if yo molgo sustete as a foster verstaka plunkera, tit des kankalte. It as colada and reducro case investigators had re-examined the evidence and searched for any new information that suggested, which led to the breakthrough. Authorities thanked the investigators, emphasizing the importance of initiatives to provide answers to people. Finally, it was said that no further details would be given, out of respect for Christina's privacy and well-being. And while her name came off the missing persons list and her location can be considered a happy ending, for many people there were still questions in the air. So the media focus centered on the importance of technological advances and the new techniques used in investigations. In Christina's specific case, they turned to forensic genealogy, that is, a comparison of DNA samples with public databases and fingerprint analysis. Similarly, the testimonies from 1994 were reviewed, and several interviews were conducted with different profiles using different psychological methods. In addition, as part of the strategy, authorities made a new flyer of Christina with a more updated face. However, in the days following the release of the statement, what many suspected was confirmed. Christina hadn't been kidnapped but had walked away from her family voluntarily. This was something that left investigators dumbfounded, as she had lived with a new identity and had her own family. In addition, she also said that her past was behind her and was a chapter she didn't want to reopen. It was asserted that from the beginning one of the lines of investigation was that her mother had taken her. Let's remember that it was the paternal family who had custody. Mind you, it was said that at that time Christina was not happy and wanted to live with her mother. It was believed that on that May afternoon in 1994, mother and daughter met at some point between the house and the stables. They both got into a vehicle and headed to the Phoenix airport. There, it was believed they had boarded a plane and flown out of the country. It also emerged that she had planned all this beforehand and had the help of some family members, but the names of the people involved were not made public. It was also learned that before the alleged disappearance, Christina had talked about running away from home, but no one had taken her seriously. For the public, it also wasn't clear what happened with the follow-up on the clues, or in any case why some clues were discarded and why the investigation was open for 3 decades. A former police detective also said that after confirming the woman was Christina, they were talking to her. By then, she was 45 years old and repeated that she didn't want to think about her past and refused to cooperate with investigators. Later, authorities revealed that in the initial investigation, they had tracked a suspicious vehicle to a nearby hotel, which officers believed belonged to Christina's mother. However, the information couldn't be verified at the time, but it's believed that's where the investigation started again. Likewise, it was reiterated that there was no ongoing criminal investigation in the case, so no updates could be given. What is known is that Christina was not the victim of any crime, but that she decided to leave her home on her own. It was also learned that she married in Missouri while still very young and had led a happy life with her husband and 3 children. It was also learned that she had studied psychology and worked at a private investigation agency. Reportedly, she married in 1998, 4 years after running away from her aunt and uncle's house. It was also said that she had been living in Springfield since August 1995. In addition, it was also learned that in 2024, she was appointed legal guardian of her mother, who had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. According to legal documents, the woman lives in a nursing home. As of the date of the investigation for this video, in June 2026, there is still no new information about what happened to Christine. And while this went from being a true crime to a complex story, it's something that has impacted everyone who has heard it. Christine's disappearance as just a teenager and her discovery 30 years later left a deep mark on the residents of Arizona. Not only because of the strange outcome, but because it's increasingly important to revive stories that seem to have been forgotten. And well guys, that's it for today's video. Honestly, it's a very different case from what we usually bring. It's not a sad case because this person is alive, nothing happened to her, and she lived a happy life. Obviously, her paternal family suffered a lot, but in the end all she wanted was to get away from them. It's also very strange how she was able to travel without her father's permission and all that kind of stuff, but well, in the end, Christina lived with who she wanted, with her mother, and was with her until she decided to go to this place where she's being treated for Parkinson's, and she accompanied her, well, throughout her illness. If you found this video informative, remember to leave a like, and remember to subscribe if you haven't already. I update 3 or 4 times a week, and if you're subscribed, you'll get a notification every time I upload a video. Now, I'll see you for another case. Bye!